that gets triggered. If you don't understand that part and what to do with the emotion that happens after that, then all those steps might hold you on a good day, but not on a bad day, right? And when things get away on us, we can just be dizzied. We've talked about all kinds of things here that we'll go over again for those who, not tonight, but that, will come in the future, and you'll hear little bits and pieces of some things are online. I talk about trauma being in a spot where trauma is something that when it's locked in you don't have closure to it. What will happen is it's like you've entered a haunted house. When that's triggered, you are now in a haunted house, but you don't have a way out, right? The emotions come up, and you don't know what's going to come out of what room, right? Or who's going to come, or who's going to be, what's the memory that's going to be the most ugly. And we'll think that we're dealing with one thing, but really, when we haven't learned how to deal with trauma, there's 35 to 50 things that are sitting in that house that will traumatize you all over again. So then we began the journey of being afraid of ourselves. I'm afraid to feel. I'm afraid to address things. I'm afraid to be self-aware. I'm just afraid of me. I don't even like me is usually the next step that it goes to. I don't like me. I don't like going places with me. I have to take me with, and it's kind of annoying because I'm not proud of me, right? You might feel shame or something like that. So we've talked about some of that in the last few months, where in trauma, those are the things, and that's the wrestling match. Some groups focus just on the drug. Now, I've studied enough that I can do that, right? I'm big into neuroscience and all of that. And so sometimes we'll go there, just letting you know how the group goes. We have a lot of people that do watch online, or later on we'll show at a facility. So, when it comes to commenting stuff, then we'll shut her down so that your comments don't end up in somebody else's facility. So just so you're aware of that. But trauma is that thing at the base that you can get caught in a negative and then can't get out of. And if you've ever been in a group, some of you have gone through, different facilities or whatever, where there's shaming going on, belittling going on, the scared straight tactic. Have you ever been a part of something or seen somebody do that? Where they scare you, and that's supposed to make you go, oh, I'm never going to use again, right? And somehow it doesn't work, All it does is re-traumatize whatever your trauma was to begin with. But people use these different tactics, and God doesn't necessarily have a tactic. He is love, right? And so the very thing is all these different things train us in a certain way, and then we think that God's going to pull one of those levers. And so we're like, I don't understand him. I don't know about him, because we've been through so many different things to get help. I had one lady tell me, I have been through treatment 30 times when I teach up at Empower Recovery. And that's a lot of times, huh? 30 times? So some people share that, kind of in a BA way, where it's kind of like, yeah, I've been through treatment, kind of like it's a badge or whatever. But most people just go, see, that even proves more that I'm that hard of a case to, hard of a nut to crack, right? You're just not, there's no healing for me. This is never going to happen. And every time we go to do something and then it fails, it re-traumatizes us, which touches our core pain. And in our core pain, that's that area of the heart that has registered in the memory system of the walls of your heart, actually. I'm talking about your physical heart. It's in there, and it registers as a truth to you. Like, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm meant for. This is how my life's going to work. Or we use terms like, this is your lot in life, or this is how I roll, or, it's par for the course. Right? For me, we just have all these sayings that really almost say that we deserve whatever's coming our way. And at the heart of the core pain, there's just going over things we've talked about just in highlight. We talked about them in detail, but we'll just bring it together in this. Wherever there's a core pain, there's lies attached to it. So, like, for instance, I was molested as a child. Okay, not making that up. It really happened, right? And not just by one person. And so when that happened, You could say that was the issue, just like you'd say heroin's the issue. Well, it is an issue. It is the starter. It's like the opening to settling a lie inside of me. Then the lie actually becomes the issue. So what do I believe about myself because I was molested? Well, as a kid, your brain goes every which way. I must be flawed. I must be defective. I must be weird. Why did I get chosen? Is this going to be my lot in life, or is this going to be who I am now? All of those different things. And then usually when you go to try to resolve it, you're little, so you don't have the information to make that happen. And so your brain will come up with just crazy stuff. I'm a weirdo. I'm a freak. I'm different than anyone else on the planet. When you're in adult thinking, you go, no, that person had a poor behavior and you got hurt. That's what's real. But for the person who received the hurt, there's usually a lie or two attached to it. So when a core pain gets triggered, what happens? The lie gets triggered. And all of a sudden we're like, the anxiety comes up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm running from that thing that I believe about myself because that thing happened. And now how are we going to get out of here? We're going to flight, fight, or freeze, or do all of the above. And so that's where self-medication is like to take that down a notch. We're like, I gotta go, we gotta, and then we'll go act out, right? So it's not easy as society thinks when it comes to addiction. People will say, build a bridge and get over it. Or like, how hard can this be? Just stop. Why don't you just stop? And yet they're not in your trauma. They're not in your belief system. And when we believe the lies of trauma, which anytime there's trauma, there's always a lie attached to it. Because that's the way the kingdom of darkness works. It's kind of like, ooh, all right, we just opened the gate. Now shove the lie in, close the door, and seal it. So that's what they think about themselves for the rest of their life. And that thing then now is the navigator for how you're going to approach destiny, how you're going to communicate or not communicate, how you're going to resolve things or not resolve things, how you feel in a room with a lot of people or just a few. I remember going to school and being in a room with people who, I'd walk in the classroom, hey, Mary, well, my last name was Samson, so they go, hey, Sam, what's up? They always called me Sam. And so, that was the thing. And if you would watch the video of that from their side of it, everyone was being friendly. But I could be in a room with 1,000 people and feel all alone. Because you don't feel really attached to anybody when you're carrying that much pain. It's very difficult to bond to people. So that's why many times the addiction goes to a higher level and we sexually bond with people, right? And that becomes another addiction because we don't know how to just bond. Can't just hey, I care about you. It has to go sexual right away because we're like, I don't know how to do that, but we could do this, right? And as long as this keeps going, well then if that wanes at all, you have to add a drug to it so that it gets more exciting. And then how long is that going to go on? Right? And then we crash and burn, and then we have to start the process all over. And we're like, then that core lie says this. See, I told you something was wrong with you. Nobody wants you. You're so weird. See the trick? Sometimes just getting rid of trauma is finding out the trick of the lies of the devils, the deceit, the twistedness. You're like, aha, I have found you, and you are alive from the pit of hell. And I want nothing to do with you. So then you start, instead of fighting the drug, you fight the lie. So that's kind of the base of hope dealers. In order to give us hope, if we're fighting the drug, we're fighting a substance. We're fighting a thing that's like fighting this chair. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. And the chair's sitting solid and it doesn't want to. And yet it's a thing. It's a chemical. The chair isn't, but, you're fighting some chemical or whatever. When the true fight, your energy should be on fighting the trauma, fighting the lie attached to the trauma, and telling it where to go. I like to tell it to go back where it came from, and that's the pit of hell. I don't just go off into some kingdom. I'm like, you go to hell where you belong. I mean, you got to talk blunt to it because it's a lie. It's a deceit, and the devil's the father of lies. Am I not right? Right, so that's just kind of to catch you up on what Hope Dealers is about. I facilitate a lot of different places and bring the same information there, and just have a blast doing it. But now tonight, we're going to talk about arising from depression. You ready for that? So, in order to arise from depression, we have to understand where depression comes from, the characteristics of depression. So most people will say, my depression, like it's a friend you own or somebody gave you a gift and now you carry it around. This is my depression. I don't like to treat it like that. It's like, actually, this doesn't belong to me. That belongs to an evil source, so get off of me. But at the same time, if you're feeling depressive, there's a reason. So I want to take this apart. Ashley and I were talking just a little bit about depression in this way. If you are physically tired, is that when you're the most joyful? Right? Unless you've gone so past tired, like staying up all night, New Year's or whatever, that you're not thinking right, and then it can be funny. But at the same time, it's usually not like if we start to get tired or there's a chemical change in our body, hormones or something like that, there's a heavy feeling. Then it's almost like you're trying to be happy through that, and there's a burden area that will happen. A lot of the viruses that are going around, I don't know, nobody likes to cough and do all that, but the thing we hate the most is that weak feeling and being tired. Can't get anything done. And you feel like you're trapped in your own body, right? So that's a big one that if you don't recognize that fighting an infection, not getting the right amount of sleep, coughing or anything that's exerting the body in that way, then that can be misinterpreted where you go and you take a test on depression, you fill out all the answers, and then what happens? Yep, you got depression. Actually, you just need to go take a nap. So you got to be careful when you fill those sheets out. At the wrong time you fill it out, now you're in trouble. Now they're like, we're going to need to put you on 15 different, it's like, no, I just need a nap. And sometimes we need several naps. We need to catch up. You cannot come off of meth, cocaine, heroin, or something like that. And when I mean come off of it, people will think, that's the first 5 days and then see I'm off of it. No, it's the first 3 months. I always tell people, first 3 months, your body goes, are we really doing this? The 6-month marker is when your liver says, all right, guys, gets the whole company together and says, let's clean her out at 6 months. But we feel like we did something big at, the first month. Then your body is first in a state of healing. So if you're going through, like, say you used 3 months ago or whatever, you're like, come on, how long is this going to take? Like, come on, first I feel edgy, and now I just feel, and you'll go through those different things because your brain has to heal, your liver has to detoxify, your kidneys are saying, thank God. Give me some water for once, stuff like that, right? And so depression can come out of all that, harming the body. The other reason that depression is there, and this is where the word depression comes from, is to press in. So someone hurt your feelings today, anytime today. Did anyone have somebody that was like, well, that annoyed me or that hurt me or whatever? It doesn't even have to be something big. It could be just this, like, what was that supposed to mean? Just the, like, what was that? Yeah. Oh, do you? Yeah? So you say it or people say it to you? Yeah. Which can be deflective. Yeah. So you wanted to be there for that, see? So it's not so harmful, I guess. But when there's something that goes on and something said, like somebody, like say you're walking in Walmart or whatever and somebody's got their cart and they just look up at you and go, and they keep moving. It just is something like you're like, what was that supposed to mean? If you don't resolve that one thing and decide what your brain is going to do with it, you have 6 seconds, according to science, to decide what category you're going to put that thing in. And it will always gravitate toward the negative if you leave it. Like, what was that supposed to mean? Then the subconscious goes, well, I know what that was supposed to mean. See, people don't even like you. You shouldn't even be out shopping right now. You're probably spending too much money. I mean, it will start cranking out the stuff. But when you just go like, I forgive them, you made a choice. I don't know what that was about, but whatevs. However you have to say it, you made a choice in the moment, which means these things aren't going to pile up. And you have to press in and press in and press in. How many of you pressed in for years? Okay, so then we cover that up and we mask that with a drug or a behavior, right? Sometimes the behavior can be, I read Harlequin romance books or whatever they are, and I just stare at them and I just can't. That's a behavior. Well, is it a drug? It can be like a drug to the brain because it helps you to escape somewhere that's not real. So anytime the brain enters a fantasy realm, it gets to disassociate. So then you decide, I'm going to sign up for a recovery group. Even if you're just going to one a week. And you came here and we started talking about what's real. There's no drugs involved. And now you have to be here with yourself. And you're here with others who are here with themselves. And then they share their feelings. Now what? Now why are they sharing their feelings? I'm trying to actually press in mine. And so, well, whatever they want to do. Well, we'll start out like that, right? Whatever they want to do that's fine. It's not like I'm not talking here. I'm not sharing here. I'm not going to do that. So, but we'll listen to them. You're like, oh, that's so sad what happened to their life. Next thing you know, you can feel it kind of trickling from your stomach and you get that like tight feeling and you're like, that's reminding me of what happened to me. Okay, they can stop now. You can stop talking about it. And I've actually had people, and I used to be like this back in the 80s before I knew Christ. But anytime I'd be around somebody, crying or whatever, you're like, oh, please. You gotta, like you whine about everything. Get over it. It's that type of feeling that can actually be there. So in that, when that happens, and you've got that going on, it's like a deflective type of thing. But if you just say, I'm going to acknowledge her feelings. She shared something, and so I'm going to love her enough to acknowledge her feelings. As soon as I acknowledge you, I have to acknowledge myself. Because love flows out, right? So it's going to flow out of me, but it can't get past me. It has to go through me. Ugh. So I'm going to pull the love, and I'm going to give it to her. So it came down from the heavenlies. It's going to hit my heart. Oh, snap. No, we're not talking about me right now. We're talking about her. Right? And then as soon as she shares, it's like, whoo, you can feel it. And then it's a feeling like, why did I get involved? I got to get out of here. I got to be gone. This is nuts. I just think there's too much emotion. In some of these classes, people share too much. And just tell me what I'm supposed to do. You ever say that? Just get to the point and tell me what I'm supposed to do. And then I'll go do it. We don't have to get all emotional. We don't have to. Well, on the other hand, you don't want to get all emotional and be crying through every class. But if that's what it takes to open the heart the first few times, then bring it on. Why do you think here we have tissue boxes sitting every other row? Right? Because people are like, go ahead, you're next. Do you need one? Okay, I'm all right. I need one now. Because this is that emptying out. It's that place where you're like, I got to get this out of me. Now, the Bible says in Isaiah 60, I love this. It says, arise from your depression, come up to a new life. Shine, be radiant with the glory and the brilliance of the Lord, for your light has come. All right, you think, well, that can mean that Jesus came. We can look at it like that. But this is Old Testament on top of it. It can be prophecy of the future. Your light has come. But I believe he's talking to them right now. In the Old Testament, he's talking to them right now. So your light has come. Stop pressing in and let the light shine on whatever it is that you took and you shoved down. And it's like, but then where do I put it? I don't want to bring it out. It's kind of like those closets that you're like, we cleaned our room, Mom. Stay away from the closet. Do not open the thing, or the rug where you swept underneath. Yeah, under the bed is horrible. My kids were food stashers, and they grew, I don't know, they just had really fast metabolisms. And so we would eat and everything. They'd have a snack. They'd brush their teeth or whatever. And they always had grabbed something, and they'd eat it in the room. And then They didn't want me to know they were eating in bed and stuff. So then you'd move the bed and you're like, what? You know, it's all underneath there. So you know what I'm talking about, Don? Yeah, they were stashers. Oh. So when he's saying get up out of your depression, how do you get up out of depression if you pressed in? Now you had to make a choice to press. Like, you looked at me wrong, so you hurt me, so I don't want to deal with this. I press it in. And then you said something to me that made me feel uncomfortable, so I press it in. Now the load's getting a little heavier, and it's harder here. You can really put some torque into something when it's here. But as the higher it gets, right, it's harder for us to press down on it because we can't use our full body weight to do so. It's the same thing that happens in the brain. Once it's so full, we're like, I got to press in it, and we start to feel like I'm really vulnerable. Yeah, and then you white knuckle is what we call it. There's like you're white knuckling, you're holding on to something, and you're to the point your knuckles turn white. And in that, you're saying, I'm not going to share, I'm not going to let it out. I can't trust anybody. So we've learned to be collectors of everything. Then when someone comes along and gives you permission to let it out, who are you the most afraid of in that moment? Yourself. You're like, John, you don't know me when this stuff comes out. Like, just back away. Nope, no hugs. I don't want acknowledgement. I am out. I'm not coming next week. Whatever it is, we'll do that because we know, like, if I'm already here and you're showing me love and kindness, I can't hold this. And when it comes out, I can't predict how deep the layer will go, all the different issues, what will all come out at once. It could be explosive. One thing can come out, but if you've been in depression for years, your conversation when it comes out, if you've ever had this happen, might not make sense to you, but it does make sense to other people, which can then make you feel crazy, and then you gather it all back up and shove it down. Because you had 15 different files that just flew out when you opened up, and you're like, and there was this, and there was that time, and this happened, and I always, and you're like, people are like, what? You know? And it comes out. I've actually been in a recovery class when someone finally broke and they just started letting it out, and they went from one subject to the next, and the person leading it told them to be quiet. And I just felt like, oh, you know, it was just like soared me in the gut. I don't know if I can sit here. You know, I just don't think I can sit here any longer. I need to say something, you know, and I felt like I was allowing the abuse to go on because you can't do that to people. So our goal is to get it out because then depression comes out, even if it's messy and pukey. I mean, it went in sick. It's not going to come out healthy. So we have to allow it to come out like it does when you throw up. Like, that was gross, but I feel so much better. Right? And then you hear there's a wet cleanup on aisle 5. You know, I mean, that's the job of our ushers and people who pray. They're like, you know, row 3. I mean, but it would be people who really don't care if they have to clean that up. That's the love of God when you have that going on in a church and you're surrounded by people. If we don't feel safe, we will not share. How many of you feel safe? Are you just saying that because you're here? Would you feel safe if I started asking you to share on certain subjects? Would the safety level go down a little bit? Don't mess with that. And then, no, I want to share deeper. Well, okay, we'll let someone else go first. I mean, it can be like, sure, you know. And part of that is just, you know, we're testing our surroundings. And so do we have to share everything all at once to get out of depression? No, sometimes sharing one thing was like, I acknowledged myself. I acknowledged me tonight. I said, this hurt me. Yeah, but what did they tell you to do about it? Nothing. I acknowledge that I'm hurt, though. So you don't have to necessarily have an answer up front. When you're used to pressing in, a big part of the answer is that you gave yourself permission to be acknowledged as a human being. And who's the most important person that acknowledged you? You did. What happens is we're like, I'm taking a chance, and we let it out, and we're like, did anyone acknowledge me here? Oh, that did not go the way I liked it, and we'll press it back down in. Because we're too worried about what these other people think, when really the person who should care the most, which is the hardest for us, is ourself. So when it comes out, we're like, I said it. Snap, I said it. And I cried about it, and that's okay. And you know what? If I have to do that again, I will. And if so-and-so didn't like it, tough beans. You know what I mean? Because I'm caring about myself right now. So how many of you have, maybe you burned bridges in family, right? Maybe they never built a bridge for you to burn. You just didn't have that security in your family or whatever. But you went in and you shared for the first time. You're like, you know what? I realized I'm feeling this. And no one acknowledged you in your family. You've had that? Yeah. And then you're like, isn't this supposed to work? Like, am I not? I thought I learned, like, you're supposed to go in. And then they're supposed to, like in the movies, they're like, I never knew. And then the hugs come and you're like, oh my gosh. And, we picture it like that. That's how we know healing comes. But healing comes in the fact that I said it, even if you don't acknowledge it. I said it. I acknowledged it, whether you acknowledge it or not. I just gave you an opportunity to be part of my life when I said it, and it's so sad that you didn't take that opportunity. But anyways, coming back to me, I just shared my emotions. I just said it. See how powerful that is? It's just a powerful feeling. Have you ever confronted somebody, like somebody harassed you, and you're like, if they ever say that again, I can't believe I let them say that to me, And then we run scenarios. We're like, if they say that, I'm going to say this. And we get all ready to protect ourselves. And then they never say the thing that we're ready for. They always say the thing we're not ready for. So annoying. But, we get all geared up in that of how we're going to protect ourselves from another person. Well, in that, it's like, I don't know that I need that other person's acknowledgement for my healing. It's nice to have support, though, isn't it? But I don't know that I need, like, if I need to be healed in something, and you all weren't in the support of that, would that stop me then from saying, well, then I probably don't. Probably not going to get healing. Just going to have to. The whole group didn't care. It's like, well, I'm so sorry. You're not going to get to participate in where I'm going. Love ya. Moving right along, right? And you have to get going. But if we're trained in our pain that we rely on the people around us to let us know if we're okay, how okay are we really going to be? Right? Now, where you can be really okay for a while is with friends that are using. But you have to do that personality, right? You got your personality where you're taking care of your kids, and this is the real core you or whatever. And I don't feel accepted in any of this, so I'm going to put on my drug face, right? My drug walk, my drug dress, my whatever. And then when I go to do that thing, I'm actually a different person. I'm kind of tough and BA, just kind of. And so I'm actually in a different role. And they're playing a different role. Because none of your friends who are doing that are themselves. They're their drug self, right? And there's a difference. You can clearly see when someone's high that is not the person I love and care about. That's the meth head, right? And so then what happens is we're trying to find center of ourself, but we believe that we have to do what the group does, be what the group is, or we're going to be left out. And then we'll truly be hurt all over again. And it's a cycle and it's a trap that will keep you in a spot where you won't get sober. So here's how a lot of people handle it. So maybe I'm touching buttons right now, but I want you to think about this. A lot of people will be like, fine, then I don't need anybody. I'm just going to isolate and I'll be by myself and I'll be sober and they're just all going to have to stick it. And I'm not going to grandma's for Christmas or Auntie so-and-so's for Thanksgiving. They don't understand me. I don't care. I just don't even care. I'm going to be by myself. And we feel powerful in the anger that's attached to that when really we're grieving our loss. And that's what's making us so mad. because why should I have to suffer this loss? And then what answers you when you ask that question? Your core pain lie. It comes up and go, well, let me tell you, which file do you want me to bring out? I will tell you why you're stuck like this, right? And so there's like a anger that holds you there, but there's a condemnation if you stay there. So then what ends up happening is we get ourselves in trouble by pulling away from everybody. And we get ourselves in trouble by being with everybody and their dog. Where do you think God's at? He's over here in the middle. Like, I can talk to you and whatever, but I got to get some people that are positive around me. I got to get some peeps, right? You don't have peeps that are headed the same direction that you want to go, then you got to hang with them only those little bits, right? Because you got to get with people who have the same goal and they're like-minded, you know? Whether they're doing a great job at it or not, at least they're headed somewhere. But they're headed somewhere. They should be headed somewhere not because you're headed that place. And you're not headed there just because they're headed that place. You're headed there because you decided for you, I got to get healthy. And I don't want to leave any of my friends behind, but I can't afford to hang where it's happening. I love you all. One day you might make the decision to go this direction, but I have to make that choice for me.
I'm kind of struggling with that right now. It's like a friend of mine that I'm in treatment with, and now she lives with me, and she's like not really working her program, and it's like I have to kind of peel away from that because I don't want to get, like I'm good where I'm at right now, and I don't want to get brought back down to that level to where I'm not working my program, not going to my outpatient, not going to meetings and all that. So I'm glad we're talking about it.
So we fall in love with people for the best of who they are, right? Not for the worst of they can become. We become friends with people. You know, we don't become a friend with a person where we're like, oh, that person's going to abuse me. I can't wait to hang out with them. No, we go, wow, they noticed this about me, or we have this in common. Let's be friends. And we're after the best of who they are, not the worst of what they can be. So then you experience some of the best of who that person is. And that's the person you were like, yes, she rocks. She rock. I can't wait. Oh, that'll be so cool. We can be in recovery together. And your brain starts making plans of safety and how it's going to be. And then the person's not that same person. And then it breaks your heart in two when you see them and they show up and you're like, that's not my friend. That's the drug personality. That's the heroin talking. That's the whatever it is. And then we get angry because we're hurt because we have loss, but we're also mad at the drug. We don't know where to put that anger because anger has a voice. It's got to be heard. It's either going to go out or it's going to come in. And if you're not careful, you'll go out at her, right? To no avail. And eventually you'll be like, well, maybe I should have tried harder and I'm a bad friend. And it'll attack you if you're not careful. When really the reality check for you is you're grieving because it's a form of loss. Yeah. Yeah. So I operate a little bit differently in the role that I play, and I don't want to act like I'm playing a role like it's in a play, but it's the thing that I do, comes out of my heart. I am that person who can look somebody in the eye and say, I'm calling the police right now because I love you. Right? And they're like, blank, blank, blah, blah, blah. I love you. And I'll go to the jail with you. I'll take you through this whole process, but you're going to jail. See, that's love. I can do that. But I'm also the person who will call out the drug personality. But the whole time, I'm still grieving if I knew the best of who they are. So it can appear like if you have somebody, come along and they're like, I can't believe they called the police or they didn't. Yeah, it's because they loved you. And you'll know if that love was true is because it doesn't matter if you're mething out or what you're doing. In the end, when you come back, they're still standing there going, how you doing? You doing okay? Right? Because we're after removing a substance so that you can find yourself. We're not after removing the substance so you can say, it's removed. See, I'm in recovery. See, it's removed. 5 days. Boo. 2 months, removed. I wish that was you. No, we're after the core pain. Like, get this drug off so we can get this person healed. See that? That's what Hope Dealers is. That's a little different, right? I love Celebrate Recovery, where you walk through steps. Well, you have to have those are tools. So how are we going to get the tools to go? Or AA, you're getting the tools. Or NA, that's here on Friday night. It's like, let's get the tools. Let's stick together. Let's get our coins that say, I came to this level. But if you're just leveling without healing, you're going to go back through the thing again. This is my 12th time. Got a lot of coins in the drawer, Give them to my grandkids to play with. It's like a coin collection, So they play store with it. It's that. It's getting regimental. So if you've been through that, you have to reset the brain to say, this time, this is how I'm doing it. I'm getting the drug and say, get away from me. You stay over there. Then I'm coming over here and saying, now, who am I? I got to find out who I am. What have I pressed in that needs to come out? Right? Because the biggest trigger is when we're white knuckling and we can't hold it anymore, and we're like, just cover it up with a drug. Right? Change the subject. Get away, run, do whatever. That's what we do. And then the other part is the codependent part that's so intertwined with addiction is that, like, I, in this moment, realize when the drug is off me and I'm out of that, trap house and I'm not hanging with the people where, oh my goodness, do I feel alone? I hate this. So some people will translate alone and they'll use the word boring. It's just so boring. See, we don't say boring, we say boring. So dumb, because that's our way of really taking it to the pukey stage of like boring. And because in that moment, we realize, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I want to be with. I don't know who cares about me. So I got the drug or I got this. I got the drug. Which one looks prettier right at that moment? So if connected to the drug is a guy or a chick, that's going to make the wrestling. This is going to be like boring, stupid, alone. I'm starting to see myself. I don't want to see myself. I'm starting to get where I can't hold what I pressed in anymore. It's going to come out. This isn't going to be I don't want to do that thing. But that guy over there, that chick over there makes me feel like escape. I escaped. Even if it's for a night, even if it's for a weekend. We know somebody who's probably doing that right now. It's escape. It's escape. And then when you're in that, you're like, see, I'm not alone. Okay, I'm just taking a break. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm just taking a 3-day break. And then I'll go back to recovery. How many of you know that doesn't work? Yeah. Yeah, this isn't like a 9-to-5 job where you're like, I worked always, so I get the weekend off. I mean, recovery is recovery. You are got to stay covered in recovery. Over here, it's disassociative. It's denial. It's I'm wrecking everything. I'm burning bridges. I'm doing all that. And yet over here, so stupidly boring. And when you're coming down off of drug, for that first 6 months, it'll feel the most boring. Because your whole insides are going, I can't find dopamine. I can't find what I need or whatever. It's so boring. And so that temptation is so huge. Our family members don't understand that. Am I right? They just say, well, you're an addict. They don't even know what they're saying. They don't know what that really means. There's a pattern. There's a pattern that's happening. So, Scripture says, arise from the depression to a new life. So we're going to come to a new life. That means we're not following their old pattern, and we're over here going, boring. Well, it's boring because we don't actually know what to do. This is prison, and that's hell. We don't really like either one, but you can have, sin is fun for a season, the Bible says. You can go have fun for a weekend and then come back to prison. Prison cell, this is my life. I go to Walmart, I do this, and every day it's the same thing over. And it's hell. Because in that, here's the thing, we haven't been off of it long enough to understand ourselves or know what our destiny is. I don't care what's going on in my life. The destiny meter in me just shakes me awake early morning. 4:30 for me. It's like I'll be just out drooling. I mean, it's like, boom. It's like, I got to get up and do this because so-and-so is waiting for this. And if I can get to that person before because destiny's there. If I don't have the knowledge of my destiny, then it's just like boring. Just getting up. I don't even know why I'm here. So alone. So alone. So that's entertaining over there. Even though it's killing us. Isn't that weird how our brain will be like, yeah, I think I'm going to go kill myself for the weekend. And then we come back and it's it's just crazy how it thinks, but it's a trickery, it's a lie, it's a stupor that we get under. But the problem is, if we're going to arise from this to a new life, we're rising to the knowledge of our destiny. That's why God made me this, what I'm here for. I got to fight for my right to be here for that. One young lady just told me, she's so big right now. She's about to have the baby any day. And she just keeps, her shirts are all too small. So she keeps it up like that and just rubs her belly. And she's like, I really need to be sober for this child. But I need to be sober for me or I won't stay sober for this child. Right? So she's trying to figure it out. And it's like all of a sudden a little glimpse of her destiny. It's kind of like, I'm here to raise this baby. You think? Huh? And there's other aspects of ourself that we'll find out if we stay away from that. Because this over here, if this represents drugs and sex and people and you don't even know who you slept with and all that stuff, now that represents the lack of destiny. This is like, I don't know, we're just out here playing Russian roulette. I might make it home tonight, I might not. We don't know, right? And then this is over here, it's like so boring, I don't even know who I am. I don't know, what am I supposed to do? And addictive thinking thinks all or nothing, so you're going to sit here in your boredom and go, what is the grandiose thing that I'm here for? And so we'll try to, I'm supposed to start a huge business, and maybe it is part of your destiny. But usually when you come from nothing, you don't go to the ultimate thing. That's not, that's not usually how we end up there. God might give you a glimpse of where you're going, but you got to do detail to get to big picture. Nobody gets to jump. And the ones who do, the ones who win the lottery and all of a sudden have all kinds of money, they've proven over and over, they follow those stories, they end up back poor. Because they don't know how to house that. Because they didn't grow into it detail to detail. They just jumped. So addictive behavior says we're going to jump on this. Isn't there a way? Can't you just order something up? Can't you move something? It's just so boring. So stupid. Dumb. Had one young lady that lived with us, and that's what she would say. This whole family thing is so stupid. And that's exactly, she would drag it out every time. And then I would talk to her like that too. And then I could come in the circle and I'm like, is it? Oh my gosh. And she'd be like, stop it. I'm like, you stop. And, we would just go. Then she'd end up laughing. And I'm like, well, that's what you sound like. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's stupid. Maybe give it a try, right? So to arise from spiritual depression to a new life, shine, be radiant with the glory and the brilliance of the Lord, not your own brilliance, for your light has come. That means I was over here in darkness. I can't see squat over here. And I'm over here and it's so boring because I can't see something. And all of a sudden, when you sit in that moment submitted to God, the lights come on. And you're like, maybe I'm supposed to. You think I'm going to? I think so. I think the lights for you came on hardcore this last year. The year before it was like, yes. And then you're like, oh, but it's still dark over here. And then all of a sudden it was like spotlights came on. You're like, I see it, Dominic, let's go. Let's go this way. And you started headed that way. And when you headed toward destiny, things fell into place. Have you noticed that? Yep. Sometimes you have to fight for your right for destiny because there's roadblocks in it. But I'll tell you what, the super on the natural will show up and meet those roadblocks when you're in your destiny. When you're in your own thoughts, like, I think it'd be so cool, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to be the next American Idol, so I'm going to go, and it's not your destiny. You're barking up the wrong tree, right? Have you ever watched that show? I just watch the commercials. And then they'll show somebody singing so beautiful. I'm like, wow, that person has a great voice. And then then the next person come on, and they'll make a big to-do out of them. You're like, this is going to be awesome. Yeah. And they're like, hands up. And you're like, this hurts me in so many ways I can't even breathe. But they're believing that this is their destiny. They believe that, and the people around them supported that. This is not going to work out, is it? So we can't be, yeah, exactly. If I got broccoli in my teeth, you best tell me. Or I will find you. I will find out where you live. Because, I've done stuff. Like I came and I preached here with 2 different boots on. They both were black, and I just grabbed them out of my closet. And I looked down as I was preaching, and I was like, oh, those don't match. Nice. Or I was ministering to people in a prayer line, and I kept thinking, why are they looking so deep into, I didn't have glasses on, and they were like, just looking at me, because when I don't have mascara on tonight, but when I wear it, it definitely sticks out that I have it on, but I only had it on one eye. So, in a hurry, apparently the other eye did not count. And so, I do stuff like that. So, here's something that will cause you to go, and then I'm going to open it up for some questions and stuff. You got this over here that's just like puke trying to happen and kill you. Then you got this over here where it's so boring because I don't know my destiny. And I guess we're just here trying to be in recovery. We're caught in a prison, in a box. Then if you're in a home and they got rules and all that, then you're like, I'm really in a box, can't do my own thing. And so it gets that feeling to it. Well, here's the other part that now will affect what's going on. It's called the shallow effect or skim learning. Beth, our naturopath that comes here, she teaches a class on Monday night. Excellent class. But anyways, she was saying that in her studies, what's happening online when you're watching different things, it's every 6 seconds you have another option. Every 6 seconds, right? And some are moving faster than that. If the vines that used to be out, like my grandson said, check this out, it's so funny. And I'm like, because my brain didn't wire around that fast a movement. And I'm hyper. So this sucker's got to be going at, Mach 10 speed for me because I got a hyper brain already. And so what happens is they're proving that whether it's Snapchat or YouTube or Instagram or constantly checking your emails and then scrolling, right? Your brain has to go, and it flutters like that. Some people, when they do that, they have a seizure. That's how much it affects the brain. So what's happening now is the more we're being trained by electronics, we're not being trained to center in, stay quiet, and find our destiny. Where it's here, it's here, it's here, it's there. So many people will come up, Pastor Mary, I just really feel God is so leading me. He's leading me. And they'll cry and everything. And the next weekend, they forgot that they even told me that, and they're led to something totally different. You're like, okay. Or I feel this guy, he's God. This God, his approval is on this. I know this is the man for me. And like 3 days later, see, I knew this wasn't. The brain isn't even keeping up with it. And it's moving so fast. So I want to encourage you, especially if you're in recent recovery, to try to have time where you go for a walk or something like that, and there's no electronics. It's hard. Now, for me, it's really hard with the phone, not because I'm playing on the phone. It's a instrument of communication that I got to make sure any counselings or whatever. So I'm trying to get inventive on how I do things. I got sons that will, okay, my work day's done, they throw their phone in the drawer and they close the drawer. They don't have a landline, so you can't get a hold of them. But they set that boundary that just says, now my brain is going to relax. I want to stay smart, right? And I'm going to get away from the molecular energy that's coming off of that, the 5G or whatever it is, that's messing with my head and causing things to speed up, because I'm actually going to find out and hear from God what the next step in my destiny is. So it's making that a priority. But if you didn't love yourself enough to share your emotions, how are you going to love yourself enough to search out your destiny? Ever think of that? So we're going to open it up for some guesses or from some knowings or for some word or whatever you got on your heart to, because people without a plan have a plan to fail. So we're going after our destiny. We're going after loving ourselves. How do we sit still long enough to do it? And what suggestions do you have for people in the room or for yourself that says, here's my time and how I'm going to do this? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Pressing in, yeah. So what we're going to do right now is turn the live stream off. I forgot to mention that. And then we're going to answer some questions. And maybe they did it already. But so when you ask a question, right, you got to be ready for the answer. Sometimes people are like, well, I didn't want to hear that. But